It's episode 8 already. So congratulations on making this far. Let's have a short recap again. We have finished the definition of the not-for-profit organizations, including the different types of classifications of not-for-profit organizations also. We also finished talking about the fund accounting, and we talked about in detail the net assets, which is composed of unrestricted and restricted net assets. And well, up until the last episode, the episode 7, we have been talking about accounting for donations, the cash donations, the unconditional pledges, the conditional pledges, the non-cash donations, and the donated services. However, the problem is I left you an assignment. So let's start with that before we go to the financial statements of the NPOs. And that would be after this short intro. Now, before we go to the assignment, let's remember that not all donated services are to be recorded. Remember, there are two criteria that the donated services must meet. First, you need to ask if the services given are professional in nature. Or if it's not professional in nature, you need to ask if the services created or enhanced an asset of the NPO. So that's the first criteria. And the second one is that the services must be needed by the NPO and that the NPO needs to purchase and pay for those services. So that's the criteria. So it's very clear that if you help the NPO by participating in fund runs and other fundraising activities, or if you help packing or repacking relief goods, for example, to be distributed to the victims of, let's say, a typhoon or a cyclone, those services or efforts that you have donated will not be recorded by the NPO in the financial statements. Okay? Now, let's go to the assignment. So, this is the assignment. Here, you just need to determine if these donated services are to be recorded by the NPO or not. So, if it needs to be recorded, then we need to encircle yes. But if not, we need to encircle no. So, let's go to the first one. The first one is, the volunteers worked as sales assistants in a not-for-profit hospital snack shop. First question, is this a professional service? No, of course. Second question, did the given services enhance or create an asset? No again. So, on the first criteria, it already failed, right? So, no need to go to criteria number 2. These services are automatically not recorded, so let's encircle no. The second one is, an architect provided pro bono design services for the planned remodeling of a local museum. Pro bono means free. So, first question again, is this a professional service? Yes, of course. So, criteria number 1, check, right? But on the second criteria, do the NPO need to buy the services? Now, there is no statement that will lead us to believe that the services are not needed to be purchased by the NPO. So, it is silent, right? So, if that's the case, let's assume that the services are needed by the NPO. So, first criteria check, second criteria check. So, let's encircle yes. The third one is, a member of a church volunteered to repaint the church's activities room to make it more attractive. Church leaders had not planned to repaint the room. Well, there are professional painters, but it's not clear here if the member is a professional painter. But even if we assume that he is not a professional, his services enhance an asset of the NPO, right? So, first criteria, check. The problem is this second sentence, that the church leaders had not planned to repaint the room. And because of that, this donated service by the member can be concluded as not needed by the NPO at the moment. So, it failed the second criteria. So, we need to encircle no. Okay? Now, moving forward, we have number 4. Several local persons use their cars to deliver meals to senior citizens for Meals on Wheels. Now, this is clearly not a professional service, and it did not enhance or create an asset as well. So, it failed the first criteria, so no. Again, if in the first criteria, the service donated already failed, then no need to assess for the criteria number 2. Remember that always, okay? Number 5. A psychiatrist volunteered several hours each week at a not-for-profit counseling center to assist persons with alcohol and drug addiction. So, let's go direct to the point. This service is a professional one. So, first criteria, check. But do the NPO need the service? Answer, yes again. Because the psychiatrist has given counseling services for an NPO which is a counseling center too, right? So let's choose yes. It is to be recorded in the FS. Number 6. A local CPA firm performed the regular annual financial statement audit for the university's chapter of Beta Alpha. I do not know how to read this. Basta it's a university. Now, criteria number 1. Is it a professional service? Yes, of course. Criteria number 2. Is this needed by the NPO? Yes, again. Because of this regular annual financial statement audit here. That means, every year, it's a must that the NPO undergo FS audit. So with that, let's choose yes. Number 7 is, a local pastor donated several hours weekly to the local food bank run by a not-for-profit organization. So, on the first criteria, even if we don't mention the first criteria, we can now conclude that the service failed, right? Because the service here is neither a professional one nor a service which created or enhanced an asset. So, therefore, we select no. And again, I will remind you that if the service failed in the first criteria, then there is no need to assess if the service passed the second criteria. Okay? Now, let's have the last service. A registered dietitian donates several hours each summer providing dietary instruction to children with diabetes who are attending a camp sponsored by the local chapter of the American Diabetes Association. Okay, so this is clearly a professional service, and it's also clear that the NPO needs to purchase the service. So, the NPO here was just lucky to have the said services donated by this registered dietitian. So, we choose yes here, since the services donated passed the 2 criteria. And that's it for the assignment. Now, let's go back here and we can already say that we are 100% finished with the accounting for donations. So, as for the last part of this video, let's have an introduction for the financial statements of the NPO. So, the financial statements of the NPO are actually the following. First, we have the statement of activities. And then we also have the statement of functional expenses and the statement of changes in net assets. We also have the statement of financial position and the statement of cash flows and the disclosures. We are going to talk about that on the next episodes, and we are going to compare it with the financial statements of the profit entities. And that's it for this video. If you learned, please click like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and select all to be updated on my next videos. Also, what do you think of this video? Please comment on the comment section below, and see you on the next episode. Thank you for watching.